I am absolutely thrilled to accept the award from the Huguenot Society for my book, Going Public, A Survivor's Journey from Grief to Action. It is especially meaningful to me to be cited for a book that illustrates freedom of thought, conscience, and speech, since those are absolutely at the center of my book. I've written a number of books before, but this was a very different book for me to write. This time, the subject was me. And I decided that I would use my personal experiences of past repeated experience of sexual abuse and sexual violence to speak publicly about topics that really are still very taboo and difficult for people to speak about. And at the same time, to combine that with my knowledge and understanding of how the legal system works, the role of litigation and settlement, and the practice of lawyers. So the book talks about how I came to terms with these experiences in my younger life as an adult and as a mother, including my civil lawsuit against the Anglican Church and my participation in a criminal trial against my abuser, who was subsequently convicted and imprisoned. Writing this book for me reflected what I think is a basic human need: to tell our stories, whether privately or publicly, and have them understood, and especially in an area where there are so many misperceptions and lack of understanding of the impact of sexual violence and why people find themselves and sometimes stay in coercive and abusive relationships. Writing the book was both cathartic and triggering. It really helped me in many ways to come to terms with what had happened to me. For example, it helped me to understand how and why I've been drawn to the work that I've done for the last 40 years, which is substantially about uncovering and better understanding the stories of people who are marginalized, vulnerable, and in many cases unheard, whether they are victims of corporal punishment, members of a community that is often discriminated against and othered, for example, self-represented litigants, Canadian Muslims, victims of sexual violence, or people gagged by a non-disclosure agreement. I want to thank all the people of all ages and all walks of life who have read my book and written to me about what it meant to them. I also need to thank my friends, colleagues, and family members who encouraged me, read drafts, and gave me excellent feedback. And especially my family, for whom this was obviously a very public event as well. The belief of my husband and my kids in me and in this project is something I can never thank them enough for. Since the book came out, I have finally given up on changing the University of Windsor's policy on giving non-disclosure agreements to hide the tracks and pass the trash of faculty terminated for misconduct. This story is described in the book. As the university sat on their hands and allowed me to be successfully sued for defamation for telling the truth, I realized I had to move on. I resigned my position as a distinguished university professor and have now co-founded the campaign, Can't Buy My Silence, to lobby for new law to ban the misuse of non-disclosure agreements. Along with my partner, Zelda Perkins, the first woman to break her Harvey Weinstein NDA, and our amazing army of volunteers, many of them the victims of gags themselves, have been part of pushing forward legislation in Ireland, England, Prince Edward Island, Manitoba, and Nova Scotia, and there is more to come. If you'd like to know more about the campaign, please go to can'tbuymysilence.com, and if you would like to know more about the personal experience that motivated it, read my book. Thank you, Huguenot Society members, for recognizing my book, and I hope that this will bring it to the attention of many more of those for whom I wrote it. Those in our midst, in our families, among our friendship circles, and in our workplaces who are perhaps still hiding a painful experience that they are scared to disclose. Everyone has to find their own time and their own place to do this, but I hope that, as many readers have told me, this book will provide support and affirmation, and you will know that you are not alone.